All right, Lou, let's see if we can help you out with a few of these questions. So the first one's here, find all the solutions to the equations in the domain 0 to 2 pi. So we've got our unit circle. This will just help us out a little bit. And if it doesn't want my pen to work, but give me a second. So we're starting here at 0. Pi is 180 degrees. 2 pi is going to be all the way back here at 360 degrees. So obviously halfway to pi is pi over 2. And 3/4 of the way is 3 pi over 2. So we're going between 0 and 2 pi, so it's not too bad. So here we've got cosine of theta equals 0. So you need to remember which axis is which. And our x-axis is the cosine theta axis, and the y-axis is the sine theta axis. Because every point, as we spin around the unit circle, is made up of cosine of the angle, where theta is the angle made with the positive x-axis, and the y-coordinate is the sine of the angle. And of course the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 1, which is why it ends up being the vertical side. So where is cosine theta equal to 0? Well, what we do is we start here. Well, that's where cosine theta is equal to 1, so that's no good. Up here, the y-coordinate's 1, but the x-coordinate, cosine theta, is 0, because I'm on the y-axis. So one of the answers is going to be pi over 2. You just need to keep going round and get the second value where cosine of theta is 0. So on the circumference of the circle, as I spin around the circumference, the first time it's going to be 0 is at pi over 2. The second time the x-coordinate, the cosine of the angle, is going to be 0 is at 3 pi on 2. So that one's just going to be theta equals pi over 2 or 3 pi over 2. Now that one's pretty straightforward. When you do it on your calculator in radians mode, if you go arc cos of 0, it's probably going to give you an ugly decimal, which isn't going to help you too much. So you're better off trying to remember them from your unit circle. The other thing we're going to need is going to come up in the next one. Here I've got sine of theta equals negative 1 over root 2. So I know you remember your little acronym here. The way I remember it, negative 1 on root 2. Well, negative 1 is all the way down here. So 1 over root 2, that's about there somewhere. It's about 0.7. So there's negative 1 on root 2. There must be 2 places on the circumference that have that y-coordinate. And if you just sort of look across, one of them is going to be here in the 4th quadrant, and one of them is going to be there in the 3rd quadrant. And that makes sense, because where is sine negative? Well, it's positive in the 1st and 2nd, so it must be negative in the 3rd and 4th. So we know where we're going to be. And how do I get the exact values of these things? We need our best friend's little buddies. See, this is your best friend, the unit circle, and this is your best friend's little buddies. The first one is, as we talked about just yesterday, isosceles triangle. So that's the one which has pi over 4 and pi over 4, or 45 degrees and 45 degrees. That's the one that when I try and find the sine, it's going to give me the opposite over hypotenuse being 1 on root 2. What that tells me is that the angle between the x-axis, the closest x-axis, and the line is going to be pi over 4. So if I want to know the answers to this, theta, well, I've got to go to pi first of all, and then add on pi on 4. So pi plus another 1/4 of pi, that would be the first one. The second one, you always want to work from the x-axis. That's a good tip. So don't try and work from 3 pi on 2 plus pi on 4, even though it'll work on this one. You always want to work from the x-axis, because that's where we always measure from. So it's going to be all the way around to 2 pi, and then come backwards by pi over 4. So what does that mean the two angles are going to be? Well, a whole pi plus another 1/4, that's like 5/4 of pi, isn't it? And 2 pi, that's 8/4 minus 1/4, 7 pi over 4. The next one's going to be the same, cosine theta equals 1 over root 2. The only difference is we've got to clean this up and give ourselves something we can see again. So cosine theta, remember cosine is the x-coordinate, 1 on root 2. It's about 0.707, so there's 1 over root 2. Whereas cosine positive, well, cosine's the x-coordinate, so one spot's going to be there, and the other spot, if you think about it, well, it's got the same x-coordinate, is that one down there. The angle, or adjacent over hypotenuse to get 1 on root 2, is also pi over 4. And pi over 4. So for part C, we're going to have theta equals, and so it's starting at 0 and I add pi on 4. Well, that's easy. That's pi over 4. And this other angle where we did it before, didn't we? 2 pi minus 1/4 of pi left us with 7/4 of pi, 7 pi over 4. Next one, sine theta equals -1. Well, -1's all the way down the bottom. There's only one angle that will give me that. It's 0, pi on 2 pi. It's the only one I've rubbed out that I wrote in blue before. Let's put it back. That's 1 pi. This is 1.5 pi, which is, of course, 3 pi over 2. So that's the one we want for that one. So theta is going to equal 3 pi over 2. And for the last one, cosine theta equals -√3 on 2. I'll leave you to do that one for yourself, but -√3 over 2. That's going to be over here somewhere, -√3 over 2. We're going to measure how far it is from the axis. Now that's, I will do this one in the end, won't I? Because that's not the triangle that's going to give it to us. What's the other triangle I need? Well, the easy way to remember is you just go 1, 2, 3. Now that wouldn't be true unless that was a square root, because then you can get 2 squared is 4. That's going to be 3 plus 1 when I square the other two sides and add them together. That's good. Opposite the larger side is the larger angle. Opposite the smaller side is the smaller angle. So we want cosine to equal √3 on 2. Cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's got to be this angle, pi over 6, to give me √3 being the adjacent and √2 being the hypotenuse. So this angle in here is going to be pi over 6. This angle in here is going to be pi over 6. So for E, what are the angles going to be? Remember, we go from the x-axis. So the first one we got to was pi minus pi on 6, because we had to go backwards by pi on 6 from pi. And the other one's pi plus pi on 6. And so when we neaten that up and make it all look beautiful, pi is 6/6 minus 1/6. Leaves me with 5/6 of pi, and the other one pi plus another 1/6 gives me 7/6 of pi. And that is question 1. Alright, hopefully the pictures came through to me in the same order that you were talking about them in. Otherwise, I'll just go back and do question 1 from the other one and 3 and 5 from this one, but we'll sort that out. I'll send you this little video and make a couple more. Good luck with the study. Cheers.